You got 3. I got a little girl too. Okay. Prado will be out there. D-Rob will be out there. Zay Jones will be out there. Garrett will be out there. So we'll see how the week goes with all those guys. Heading to Lambeau, really good football team. They're explosive on offense and defense in the kicking game. So got some really good players, good scheme. I got a very high opinion of Matt, how he constructs his offense, how he calls plays, how they coach the quarterback. They're a good football team, obviously. You know where they were last year, and they'll be right in the mix. So got a big challenge ahead. So we're on to Green Bay. They're doing a good job of meetings and normal week, and then we'll fly on Friday.
You've been to Lambeau a couple times.
Yeah.
Is that experience any different for a coach than most games? Obviously, fans like to talk about going there, but is it any different for a team and a coach?
No, just an away game, but it's a cool place to play. We talked to our guys about it.
What did you see from Christian in his first week back on the practice field last week?
He did a good job. Just getting back into the mix of, alignment, assignment, key, technique, his pad level, getting lathered up and blocking people. It was good to see him.
Jonathan, your wins have come against Shanahan and McVay, and they have LaFleur. Several years ago, it used to be, if you've seen one, you can kind of have familiarity with the other. Does that apply anymore? Have they been apart so much that, they kind of don't really see that?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. Matt's a really good football coach, so, they were all together at one point. But then Matt went his own way, and you see some certain things that show up that you're like, oh, that's kind of looks like San Francisco a touch. And then you see other things that show up that says, oh, that kind of looks like, L.A. a little bit. So he's got elements of it, but it's his own offense. I mean, he's been doing it a long time, as the head coach, calling plays. I would say it's his own offense.
I know with Darius taking his time to get back, but whenever he does come back, he was obviously playing at a pretty high level, it looked like, in training camp before he got hurt. Does a guy lose a little bit of that with being on the sideline as long as he has been, or do you feel like it's something where he can pick right back up where he was?
Well, he hasn't played football in a long time, so I want to see him get out there and play football. So we'll see how it goes here for him. He's ready to go.
Coach, what is it that Green Bay does well offensively? What do you?
They throw the ball over people's heads, and they got explosive players. The run game's good. Jacobs is a really good player. The scheme is really good. But what jumps out on the tape to me is they can throw it over your head. So we got to be on the details of that. They're one of the top teams in the league in explosive plays. And that's how they score points, so got to do a good job with that.
The five straight games with an opening possession touchdown, what goes into that? What's the best way?
Execution.
Are there any common denominators, though, like from game to game?
Guys making a lot of plays. Yeah, but no, I wouldn't say common denominators because every plan is different. Every defense that you're playing against is different, but it's good to get on the board early. Now the challenge is to keep consistently doing it.
Without your starters on the right side of the offensive line, does that require any more communication or anything from your quarterback, the rest of the offensive line, James, or anything?
No, those guys, obviously roles are changing for us, but guys will step in there and do a good job. I'm excited.
What boxes do you want to see from Zay Jones this week before he's ready to go?
Just get out and play football.
You guys have the highest rate in the league in goal-to-go situations, converting that into touchdowns. I think you're 7-7 on the year. Any common denominator in that? Or what about the team that kind of has fueled that success?
Probably execution. Guys making a bunch of plays, good scheme, guys making plays, So we got to continue to do it.
I think it's fair to say that we take Buddha maybe a little bit for granted.
I don't.
I know. I figured you didn't. But what about the plays that maybe don't show up on the stat sheet? There was a play on the fumble play where he just blew up George Kittle.
Yeah, and then was on the ground. We would call that a hot stove. Jumped off the ground and ended up shielding their guy from recovering it. There's also plays that people are very aware of him in the run game, and to the naked eye you wouldn't see it, but they have assets deployed for him, and it helps our other guys on the defense make plays. But I do not take him for granted. He's playing like a premier player right now. He's doing a good job.
Does the Friday departure change anything practice-wise?
No.
You talked on Monday about the lack of penalties. Focuses on especially those offside and false starts. But has there been anything throughout your career that you've picked up from other coaches in terms of tips on how to teach that so effectively?
Yeah. I would say, Teo, like, you got to educate your guys. You got to hold them accountable. It starts in practice. But again, it's technique and decision making. And like I said, we put a lot on our guys to make the correct decisions, knowing that bang bang plays, sometimes it's going to happen, Our guys understand, the crews that are calling the games. We try to educate them on that. What they're looking for, or what the NFL is putting an emphasis on. But it's going good right now. It has to stay consistent. But again, if we get flagged a bunch, in Green Bay, hopefully you can overcome it. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but you got to be able to overcome some of those too at times. But I do think that kind of goes into a little bit of our DNA. Of you don't want to be the opponent shouldn't be yourself, and our guys understand that, and they've been doing a good job with it.
And the Tillman jersey for this week is?
Xavier Weaver had a great week last week.
Jonathan, did you learn anything about the toughness or the will of
No,
your team?
that will always stay consistent as long as that locker room is the locker room right now. Coaches do a good job with it. They know they're never out of the fight. We coach a certain way and they play a certain way that they equate that with winning, and that always has to be consistent.
When you say a guy had a great week in that situation, what is it specifically that you're
giving
looking?
good looks, you know what I mean? Just practicing with a ton of effort and enthusiasm, and really forcing the other players, obviously with Zave going against, our defense, forcing those guys to be on point and making some plays, because then, when he made some plays, this is like all of them, right? Every week when Zave made some of those plays, we had to adjust some things, you know what I mean? Or, hey, there's always learning from that, but learning takes place when guys are playing at high levels. So then you kind of can coach off of that, and there's growth that happens from that. But you need those other guys going 100 miles an hour to there's a cause and effect to it. And a lot of his plays, some were carded, some weren't. You know what I mean? 2s versus 1s. So that was cool, for him to go out and make some plays. He's developing his game.
I'm sorry?
He's developing his game,
And how is it for a younger guy, especially rookies or whatever, to understand? I mean, I know you concentrate on it, but to really understand how important that is.
They know. They know. And they know, what role they have to go in to improve in the other side. But really, I'm looking for, you can't stay the same. So you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at guys when that jersey gets given out. Are they improved? Did they improve these last 3 days? And I thought, he did.
With rookies, obviously, over the spring and summer, there's a lot of things you guys do differently with those guys. Once the season gets rolling, once we're to this point, is there anything different in terms of how you do things with rookies compared to other players?
Yeah, a lot. They meet a little bit more. They do some other developmental things off the field. Josh Mariner heads that up. Our team psych heads that up. The second-year guys, give those guys some different things. We're the role of a coach is to develop and have them hit their ceiling. So we don't know what those guys' ceiling is, right? So, An easy, good quote to me is like, coach them. That's our job. Coach them up. Our staff isn't, get rid of this guy and replace him. It's no, that's kind of lazy to me. Like, let's coach them. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we do. They're a little bit different their first year. Even our second year guys, we do some different things with those guys because we're in the business of developing, and we need all those guys to play football for us. So, and they're just because of their years in, they don't have the experience of some of those other guys, the vets, they kind of know certain things that the rookies don't know. So you just continually try to catch them up. That's a good question.
Given that, how encouraging is it to see how some of those guys have played what they've been called on?
Awesome. They're here for a reason. If they're out there, we think they can help us win.
Since you've been here, you've really preached explosive plays and hitting those in order to be successful. You guys are near the top of the league in explosive plays right now. There's not a secret sauce to it, but what do you think has been so successful in having you guys do that?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot that goes into that, Donnie, but, obviously execution is huge, but even take it one step further, like the why behind it and knowing, what's going on in the game. Why is Drew calling those things? Why is Nick calling certain coverages, certain calls? Again, they got to know on defense, we talk about situation, stress, and strength. Where's the strength and where's the stress? On offense, Drew phrases it a different way, but hey, like there's certain plays on a game plan that this is what I'm hunting, you know what I mean? And if it's there, we need to convert it. There's few and far between plays that they give you exactly what you want. You call a play that exactly for what they're in. When that happens, that has to be converted. You know what I mean? And one play that sticks out in my mind, not to go in the past, but the one to Mike Wilson, you know what I mean? The protection was good. We liked the look of that they were in, and that was called to beat that coverage, and we executed it, and it turns into an explosive. And then a good catch and run by Mike, too. I always joke about with the receiver. Sometimes, it doesn't have to get thrown down the field. Sometimes you got to catch it at 5 and get 20. You know what I mean? Break a tackle, win a one-on-one, split 2, whatever the case may be. So they all have their hand in it. It takes all 11. But our guys, I think, when they know the value of it, something that we talk about daily, the value is very high to us, and they understand that.
In general, preparing for a guy like Jeff Hafley, who spent a lot of time in college recently, are these 5 games enough to know kind of what he wants to do, or do you have to go back and watch college?
Yeah, and then he's been in the NFL, as a DB coach, so we turn over every stone. But obviously it's a new staff for him. You got some different guys. Derek Ansley's a really good coach, the DB coach there. The other DB coach, Ryan Doward, he's been there for a while. So you start to see, different things or elements, things like that. From a play calling standpoint, 5 games isn't a ton. But they're doing a good job. They're number 1 in the league in takeaways. So I know they're coaching that well, and they got players to do it. They got pieces on all 3 levels. They've drafted extremely well, in my opinion. They got some guys on the front that can give you problems. They got, Quay Walker's a guy that I love coming out. He's a stud. They got 2 really good corners. They got 2 really good safeties. They're on it, man. It's a good team. Good defense.
When you got a guy like McKinney that's so hot, taking the ball away.
Yeah.
You consciously hey, keep it away from him, or you still just kind of got to
Yeah, no, they have to understand how he likes to take it away and why those takeaways are happening. But Xavier McKinney's been a guy doing it forever. When he was in New York playing in that division, he was a guy that could take the ball away. Certain guys do, certain guys don't. He's a guy that does,
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys.